All right, can you just tell us about Wisconsin? Challenges they pose?
Yeah, obviously one of the best offenses in the country, and to go along with a really good defense. I'd say you have a good team when you have an efficient offense and a good defense, a good coach, experience. They have a lot of experience, not just in years but also together. So obviously guys like Crowell and Klesmit, John Blackwell, even though he's in his second year, has obviously had a lot of minutes there. And then Tanji's completed him. He's really completed him. Nolan Winters really helped with it. The guys off the bench, McGee's made a lot of strides and played better, but also had more. Has really forced his hand. And that's what you want to see in a player when he transfers. He doesn't play, then he plays a little bit. Now they have a tough time when he plays well taking him off the court because he puts pressure on the ball. He's around the ball. He gets long rebounds, makes 50% of his threes. So a really good piece for them off the bench. But they have a good team. They have a skilled team. They have a good offense. They make 10 threes a game. They can drive the basketball. So they're just not a team that kind of sits out there and wants threes. They don't hunt their threes unless you're going to give it to them. You're going to give it to them. Like, you got to really break their rhythm because teams that average 10 threes, obviously, for every game that they hit 6, they hit 14, right? And so that's an average. And just trying to help you guys with your math, especially if we got some public school guys. So I think that is a big key for us is if you allow them to get in transition, you allow them to freely move the basketball. Like, they might have some struggles here and there, but during the course of that game, they get to it. I think you've seen that in some of their games. Like, they just kind of are getting through the games. They've had a couple blitzkriegs where they just start off right away and they just annihilate somebody. So they show that, kind of like Illinois can do. They just show that ability just to skunk somebody real quick. And then sometimes, shots don't fall and it doesn't go that way. And 20, 25, 30 minutes into the game, now they kind of catch fire and all of a sudden they go 4 for 5 from 3. They get to the free throw line and then you look up and they were down 4 and they're up 8. And they've changed the course of the game and they're a great late game at dictating tempo and playing. And they can play, it's a little different. He's really adjusted to the personnel that he has and they are attacking you in transition. They're coming at you in transition. So you got to get your defense set and not allow that. Well, that didn't happen a whole lot before. You knew unless you just turned it over or handed them an opportunity that they were going to make you play in the half court. And that's a dangerous offensive team when you're great in transition and you're great in the half court, which they are.
What makes them good defensively? Is it typical Wisconsin, good offensively and good defense?
Yeah, they're well schooled, man. They're in position. They defend it how they normally defend it. They get into the basketball. They make it tough for you to score off of cuts. They bottle up the paint. They have active hands. They have guys with experience that understand rotations when they have to rotate. They try their best to stay out of rotations. But just a well-schooled team on both ends.
What's going to be the critical piece of the matchup to Tanji? You beat someone that seems like it challenges the depth that you guys, the versatility you guys.
Like anytime you have a dangerous player like Tanji and Blackwell, because I think both of those guys are really dangerous. You can't forget about the other guys like Klesmit. Klesmit's a guy that can get 4 to 6 points. He can get 24 to 26 points. Like he's had big time games throughout his career. He's great at kind of picking his time when to be aggressive. But then Crowell is a part of the game. Winter's a part of the game. So it's not just Blackwell and Tanji, but Blackwell and Tanji can get you 25 to 30. They both can shoot it, so they make you get up on them and break their rhythm, but then they're good at driving and getting to the rim. Tanji is fabulous at getting to the free throw line. He knifes in there and does a good job. He's kind of that two-way guy in terms of the way going left, going right, changing direction, step back threes. So just dangerous game. You got to make both of those guys make tough shots. Doesn't mean that they can't because they've proven that they can, but you got to make it hard on them. You got to make them earn it. But if it's no similar than like Johnny Davis when they came in here and beat us like 3-4 years ago. It's like he gets 6 breakaway dunks. We foul him. We leave him open. Like it was a comedy of errors, and they obviously win because of it. But you got to make it hard on a great player. It doesn't mean a great player can't go and score the basketball. That's what makes him great. You just got to make it difficult.
Trey's experiencing some things now that, Zach probably went through earlier in his career in terms of having to play through some contact and attention and foul trouble. And it was a process for Zach to kind of get his head to a place where he was able to brush that stuff off. Is Trey handling that stuff okay?
Yeah, you got to watch the tape and be honest. And, it's like 2-3 games ago, he set those illegal screens. I'm probably the only dipshit in the country that agree with officials when they make good calls. And he had 2 illegal screens that, you can't move like that, right? Then he gets in the game against Michigan and he has a couple things go against him that he gets fouled and they don't call it, and then he fouls and they're not fouls and they call it. That's where it's frustrating. That's where it's frustrating when there's not a consistent whistle with that. And so, like, at times when he's gotten into foul trouble, he's fouled. Like, get it fixed. Like, watch tape, be honest about it, and that's how you correct things. And that's with anything in life. And so, like, the other night was very difficult because when you go back and watch, he has a couple things go against him that are absolutely, shouldn't have been called or not called, or however you want to look at those 2 things. So you just got to push on. It's part of competition, and you got to get better because of it. But we got to have a better defensive concentration. I think that was our shortcoming in the game. We allowed the officials to be a part of the game because our defensive concentration wasn't very good.
It's a different dynamic than it was with Zach and Isaac, though, it seemed like, because that was like those guys would just get beat on relentlessly, right? This is more of like situational.
Right, situational. Right? Yeah. See, the one thing that happens in officiating is how they officiate the game. We adjust to them. They don't adjust to us. So that's what I always talk about in huddles. Like, we're going to be able to play through contact, or are things going to be called a little bit closer? Like, they determine that, and then we adjust to that. And I've always really worked towards, we've been a team here the last 5-6 years where we've been one of the best in the country at not fouling. It doesn't mean we don't foul at times, because we do. But from a numbers standpoint, we're one of the best in the country at not fouling. So when you get into those type of games and you got 3 officials with 3 different whistles, it's really hard to adjust to it, because they're calling small change here and then they're pushing us in the back at the other end and they're leaving it alone. So it didn't add up, but you got to be above it and play better. I got to coach better. We got to play better. And then if we do that, we take them out of the game. And that's the silver lining as a coach and a player, is like, be better. Like, be better. Be more efficient. Be tougher. Box out better. Stick to our rules defensively better. And now we give ourselves a better chance. But when you don't do those things and you give up too many opportunities, now you're playing with fire. So the other night we put ourselves in a really good position, but last 5 minutes of the game, our concentration wasn't very good, especially defensively.
You have a couple guys who are shooting slumps right now.
Yeah.
I know it's process, it's good shots over everything else. Is there a human element to address just psychologically? And
yeah, well, it's not. If you're in a slump, it's like a Major League Baseball player. If you're in a slump and you get 5 at-bats every game for a month, like, that's a real-ass slump. Like, you're dealing with it. But if you're a guy that's a pinch hitter that's getting 3 at-bats a week, and then, like, you go a full month, and now you have 12 to 14 at bats and you're 1 for 14. You're like, he can't do it for us. You're like, well, he's not getting consistent at bat. So the guys that come off the bench for us that haven't shot well, they don't get consistent attempts. So, like, when you guys said the other night about getting other people that can score, it really doesn't matter unless they've shot a lot. But when you do other things better. But, like, that was our problem other night. It wasn't the guys coming off the bench. It was everybody from a defensive standpoint that lost concentration, that didn't do some little things. But, like, yeah, it's not fair to guys that get 2 shots a game, to say, hey, like, but when you accumulate all their attempts and then you see that percentage, you're like, yeah, they're a better shooter than that. Well, they would be a better shooter than that if they got 5 to 7 cracks out of every single game. Like, at least you like to think so, right?
Dude, this might be a dumb question, probably is, but do you have to coach a guy like Braden differently because he can see things differently than pretty much most basketball players, and you just have to trust that he's going to see things that maybe most people don't?
Yeah, you want to instill in him what's going on, the reads, and trust in his instincts. What you have to really stay on him about is trusting his teammates, because he'll hit you for a couple open ones and you miss him, he might not come back to you. I think that's a quality point guard, right? So they get frustrated. you get frustrated with that, but you got to keep in mind that I'm going to keep making the right play. And that's what I always say to him in the game. Just keep making the right play. You're doing great. Because it's like you guys did. Like you guys fell victim to it the other day. No, you guys are better. But you just said like when Trey was out, and like I actually had at halftime in my head those 4 shots that we got. And so like right away I'm like, well, I like Cam's wide open shot. You know, I like Braden's pull up 3 there at the end, just like Iowa. You know, and so when I went back and watched, there's one more possession that I forget. We got good shots, but we didn't get stops, and we were playing in transition because we missed shots. But if we just hit 2 of those good shots, like we're perfectly fine. It's not bad. But the problem is we've had this issue before, right? When Trey's out, so that's what lies before. Because you guys go on narrative, which you should, but you got to like grab the right narrative and be able to, you know, attribute it into your story and how you write shit. But they did a pretty good job in execution. As a coach, like if you get mad there at them for taking good shots and missing them, man, they're not going to know which way's up. Like you've got to be positive with them. You've got to tell them that's good stuff right there, man. That's good stuff. Just stay with it. Keep taking your good shots and believing in them. You know, and I do. Like the guys that took those shots, like if you take a bad one, I let you know. But if you take a good one, man, you gotta. I'm not a results-based guy. I'm a process-based guy, because a process-based guy gets you better results.
Is Ja'Cory kind of proof in the pudding? A guy who was struggling early and now he's knocked out of a consistent
Right.
pace?
Yeah, you want to encourage him. And I watched Ja'Cory in AAU in high school make shots. So it's not like you don't recruit him. Like the guys that are struggling right now shooting the ball in the perimeter, I've seen him make shots. I've seen Miles Colvin come in against Xavier and against Gonzaga and against Ole Miss this year and shoot the ball well. I've like watched it. He needs more attempts or whatever, but you got to get yourself out there more. Like, you know, G's got to get himself out there more. Like other night, it wasn't a good game for him, but he really, you know, grown there. You know, CJ's, you know, really put himself in a good position just because he gives you that ball handler. He can hawk the basketball, but he has shot a pretty good percentage from 3, you know, across the board. I mean, but he still had a rut there, non-conference, where he didn't shoot the ball well too. But at the end of the day, like, it's all about making guys, you know, understand about being process-based, be efficient, but they got to feel good about themselves. Like, especially when you're a guy that shoots it, you just got to keep putting in the work and believing in yourself.
When you were, I know you said that the recruiting process for Braden was pretty short, but when you were looking at him as a prospect, did you see special passing stuff in him even at that stage?
Yes, no, it's all film because it was COVID.
Right.
Yes, I saw more instinctual, elite instincts than anything. Whether it was playing passing lanes, whether it was seeing people, whether it was faking like he was getting back on defense and then jumping a passing lane. Like when he first came here, he was just a riverboat gambler. Like he would just gamble no matter what. Now he has learned to pick his spots. And he still will go after. You're still going to have moments where you go after things that you shouldn't have, but it just can't be a high level, because you're not going to take the ball from good players when it's not advantageous. You're just not. But when they show weakness, or like they turn their body, or like a lot of it is like, especially we double a lot, is you got to understand 2 things. What can he see and what can he see? And then you got to gauge it over there. It's just like when you watch a quarterback throw an interception and you say, how in the hell didn't he see that guy? Like, how didn't he see him? He just didn't. He just didn't. He either got blocked in vision, but you're talking instincts and you're talking split seconds. You got Lawrence Taylor up your ass. You got Singletary coming through the middle. Like, people don't understand. Like, this guy is in a double team and he's passing the ball. Well, they do that to Zebo, and Zebo would go over him. So we'd say, well, you can do whatever you want, but if we can get that dive man, like, we're going to get you. We're going to score that. We're going to get fouled. And then if you take that away, now we got you into a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2. Well, now when you deal with real people that, you know, are 6'10", 6'9", whatever, now you got a better chance of someone not being 7'4" and going over you. Well, Braden is great at all that when he's that out man. He is great at that. Like, he could be a free safety in the NFL. Like, he really has great instincts.
How did you confirm what you saw on film? Like, did you want to get him in for workouts or whatever, just because you have to confirm what you were seeing on the film? Or?
Yeah, and I had to be careful so I didn't throw up a flag from a social media standpoint where people knew I was interested. So when I called different people to gauge it, I called people that I was friends with, and I just tried to get them to keep it between us if they could pull that off for me. Yeah, and so like you treat people the right way, they normally will help you. It's not something you normally do and say, hey, like keep this between us. But like I didn't want other people. Like there was a couple people I was going to call, but I knew they were direct links to other assistants in our league, and I didn't want to. Right as I watched film, and see, I didn't have a scholarship. So right as I had a scholarship, someone decommitted. Like now, when I went and watched film on 5 different guys, we were going to do a Zoom with Holloman. That's at Michigan State. We were doing a Zoom with Holloman. I don't remember the other guards, but I went and watched him, and I said, "That guy's better than all of them." I said, "But is the tape lying to me? Like, the tape will lie to you sometimes." Not all the time, but so you want to see it in different venues, right? But he didn't have time. Didn't have time in situationally with COVID. You couldn't, but he looked really good on tape, like really good. Then after he committed to us, then watching him, like you knew, like he was going to be special.
So you were the one taking the gamble a little bit.
Huh?
You were the one taking the gamble a little bit. Like talking about him as a gambler, you were kind of the one who's having to do that.
Yeah, every time you sign somebody, it's a gamble.
Sure.
Yeah, when you deal with human beings and human behavior and the people around them or like whatever, like because it's everything. You get everything. So like when you sign a player, like, oh, you got that player. No, you get everybody. You get everybody around that player. Like it's the whole. It takes a lot of people to help one person be successful.